Okay, so good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Oh, you guys are so excited. I'm happy to see that. Okay, so thank you very much for coming on a very special day. We have our lunch and learn, and we'll concentrate and do the lecture as fast as possible so we can feed our tummy. So the lecture of today is the spiritual word that Marcio will give to us. But before we go to that, we'll do our initial reading by me. It's from the book Our Daily Bread, and it's called Heaven Upon Heaven. But store up treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust consumes them, and where thieves cannot enter and steal them. Jesus. Within our Christian ranks, we encounter those ambitious for recompense, who think they have found in this statement by Jesus an effective recourse for retaliation against those who, through work and dedication, have received greater resources while on earth. What appears to be trust in God is actually disguised hatred for their fellow humans, because they have not been able to amass financial resources. They harbor critical and rebellious thoughts, waiting for their desired revenge in heaven. However, it will not be through surrendering their body to the laboratory of nature that people will automatically find the realms of resplendent beauty. Of course, imperishable sanctuaries shine in the sublime spheres, but one must remember that the spirit regions closest to human activity, there is still an immense number of moths and thieves in the evolutionary lines that extend beyond the grave. When the Master recommended that we store up treasures in heaven, he was advising us to expand the virtues of the good in the place of our hearts, in the peace of our hearts. Individuals who acquire faith and knowledge, virtue and illumination in the divine recess of their conscience know the way to heaven. Those who apply the redemptive principles they embrace and attaining this precious map, and those who work daily in the practice of the good continue to accumulate riches on the peaks of life. Let no one be deceived about this. Beyond the earth, the blessings of the Lord radiate in the celestial heights. However, one must possess light to perceive them. The law states that the divine identifies with what is divine, for no one can contemplate heaven by sheltering hell in their hearts. So Angelo will do our initial prayer.
Let's close our eyes. God, our Father, Jesus, our Master, our way to heaven, and our spiritual guidance. Let us elevate our thoughts to God and open our hearts to the teachings of today. May God also help Marcio Lee, inspire him for the lecture of today. Thank God.
So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning for those who's watching us through the internet. It's a pleasure to have all of you here. And so the topic for today is the spiritual word. You know, it's a very interesting topic to talk about because there's a lot of questions about it, right? What exactly is this spiritual world, right? Is that something that in any religion we would be interested to know what we're doing, what happened after life, right? And there is lots of different explanations, and today what we're gonna do is go through what Spiritism teach us about the spiritual world, right? What that is, right? And to start with, I brought this passage from the Gospel that excuse me, Jesus said, "There are many dwellings in my Father's house. If it was not so, I would have told you." And then he continues. That's the passage of John 14, verses 1 to 3, right? And in the Gospel according to Spiritism, we have an explanation exactly about that passage. And what Kardec started telling us is that, the entire universe and everything that we know about the universe and things that we don't know about the universe is our Father's house. So it's not only here, it's not only Earth, but every single place, all the different planets that we have, there is life. There is life according to God's will. And it's not the same life that we understand from here, right? It's a different formats and different ways of having life there that we still do not understand. We still not have the knowledge, the ability, the perfection, right? We could say to get at the point to understand those things. But we know it's there, right? How many people try to understand, there is those UFOs and extraterrestrials. I don't know how to say that in English, but aliens, thank you, and all of that. And so we know that it exists, right? We know that the planets are there, but there are a lot of other things that we cannot see. That's what we call the invisible world, right? That we don't see. All those spirits, even the spirits, right? That we talk here in Spiritism, this connection. What these spirits are, and where do they live, right? And the first thing that Jesus brought to us is that there's many dwelling in my Father's house. And one thing that is important for us to understand is that no matter where it is, because we can understand this as more evolved planets, less evolved planet, where Earth is. We have we got to soon talk here on Sundays about the transitory transition that we are planetary transition that we are going through. And all of that, but the important for us to understand is that God loved every single thing that He created, right? No matter what the stage of evolution, if we are incarnated, if we are discarnated, if we are here in Earth, if we are in any other planet, God loves everything in the same way, right? So it's important for us to get that right, and don't forget that through the entire lecture, because we're going to talk about the spiritual world, right? Where in the Spirit's book, Kardec asked the question, what this spiritual world is, and the Spirit answers back to us saying, the spirit world is the normal, the primitive, eternal, pre-existent, and all surviving world. So it's kind of our real home, right? It's there where we go to when we just incarnated. And he continue in another question. They say the corporeal world is the secondary. It could cease to exist, or it might never have existed in the first place, without change the essence of the spirit world. So Earth, planets, all the corporeal, the material things that we know, it is created for us. It is created for us to continue our path of progression, right? You guys may recall when we talked about the laws, the divine laws, one of the laws was the law of progress, right? We are here to continue progress, to enlighten ourselves, to get to the level of perfection that Jesus is today, right? So Earth is this temporary place, and during our incarnation we are here to do that, to go through that progress process. So our real home is the spiritual world. And on the Student the Spirit's book, the question 86, Kardec continue talking about the spiritual world. The spirits tell us that the two worlds, the spiritual and the corporeal world, they are independent of each other. So if tomorrow we get on a point that all the spirits in earth are perfect, we don't need the earth anymore, God can come and destroy earth and do something else, transform it in something else, right? It doesn't mean that we will not exist anymore. We will continue to exist because our home is the spiritual world. So it's independent of each other. But yet their correlation is unceasing because they continually react upon each other. So the connection, Teresa talked a couple of weeks ago, if I'm not wrong, 3 weeks ago, about the influence of the spirits in the corporeal life. Right, so that exchange between both words is always happening. There's no stop there, right? So we have our guardian angels, our mentors, whatever you want to call them, but those spirits that are helping us, they're helping us all the time. We have those spirits that are not helping us, and they are interacting with us. And we do the same thing. If you go and study a little bit about the emancipation of the soul, it's a chapter in part of a chapter in the Spirit's book that talk what happened when we are sleeping, that we have the freedom of our body, and the spirit can understand a little bit more. The spiritual world can connect with others in the spiritual world. So all of that, those two connections happening all the time. So they are independent, but the connection between them, the correlation, how they call it, it's happening all the time. And it's interesting to talk about the spiritual world, and if we can see thousands of examples, right, in André Louis' books. So there is the collection. I think the collection is called The Spiritual World, and it's 13 books that tell André Louis' experience since he disincarnated, and a lot of learnings that he got from the spiritual world while living in Oslo. And one of the books, The Missionaries of the Light, it talks about a place that he went. It's a spiritual house, a place that help others spirits, and he saw there a picture, framed, and he looked to that and he said, you know what, this seems very, it's exactly the same thing that we have on, I don't remember the name of the artist, but it was a famous artist in Earth, and he said, that's a great copy of that picture, but the colors in the spiritual world was more vivid, were more shining, and it was different from really seeing the real thing. And then he learned that it's not that the spiritual world is copying Earth; it's the other way around, right? So the artist that painted that picture, he got the inspiration coming from the spiritual world. So if you read, imagine some things that we read today on the André Louis books. He talks about some machines and some things that one of them seems like an iPad, right? For us today, it would be, okay, so that's similar to an iPad. But when the book was wrote in 1940 something, people don't even think about iPads, right? I guess I was not alive for that. So it's a lot of things that we think that it's a great creation. In fact, it's really something that we learned. We got from the spiritual world when we were there, and then when we incarnate, we come with these great ideas and get inspired by the spirits, and then we make it make things happen here. So the corporeal life is a kind of copy of the spiritual life, right? We bring from there what we learn. But then a question that we always ask is, where exactly is the spiritual world, right? Is that a specific place? And in the Gospel according to Spiritism, when Kardec was explaining the passage that we read before, there are many dwellings in my Father's house, he tells us that there are therefore many mansions, although they are neither circumscribed nor localized. And it's hard to understand, right? And the way that we live today, each one of us has an address where we live. Everything seems to be a city, a country, a continent. Everything happens, planet Earth, Mars, and other planets. Every is localized somewhere, right? So it's hard to understand when we get messages like that or explanations like that it's no circumscribed or localized anywhere. But in the same part, Kardec says, there are many dwellers in my Father's house, words may also be understood as referring to the happy or unhappy situation of the spirits in the errant stage. So there is no limitation, it's not localized, because in fact, different from the material world that we are used to, where things have a place, what will make us to be here or there is our state of mind. It's our happiness or unhappiness, right? So that is the situation that make us, wow, that is different. That is a completely different concept that we understand about places, right? And we have the concept of heaven or heaven, hell, purgatory, that for that century, right? We have been told about. If you don't do this, you go to hell. If you do it this way, if you do everything good, you go to heaven. So we're still putting a location to that, right? Thinking that a hell, a heaven would be a nice place or a bad place. In fact, it could be a nice place or a bad place, depending on our state of mind, because it's all about how we connect to those things, right? And there is a question at the end of the Spiritist book. There is question 1012 that Kardec asked: are there circumscribed places in the universe that are intended for the punishment and pleasures of spirits according to their merit? So he started to ask about the heaven and hell, right? And then the answer from the spirits are: punishments and joys are inherent to the degree of a spirit's perfection. Each spirit carries within itself the source of its own happiness or unhappiness. And since the spirits are everywhere, there are no circumscribed or enclosed place for one or the other. As the incarnate spirits, the degree of their happiness or unhappiness depends on the evolution of the world they inhabit. So, again, incarnated or disincarnated, the place that will bring us peace and or not will be our own understanding, our own source of happiness and unhappiness, right? So, and the spirits are everywhere. So so the spiritual world is everywhere, right? There is no specific location for that. And the concept of heaven and hell that Spiritism bring to us is different from what we are used to think that a nice place in heaven, over the clouds, and with angels, and it's inside of us. It's our our happiness, the way of we connect to other spirits in the same vibration. So with that come the question, okay, well, what exactly happens then when we disincarnate? We start to floating around, and we can go anywhere we want to. And again, in the Spirit's book, it brings the answer that coupled in real cities and towns of certain styles, like what happened at Earth Village, typical of metropolis or countryside, builds light enterprise for education and progress in favor of themselves and it benefits of. In fact, I'm sorry for that, but it's not the Spirit's book. That's part of the book Evolução em Dois Mundos. There is no translation for this book still, but but it will be soon. But it's kind of evolution in two words. As far as I know, it's not translated yet. So, when we disincarnated, the first thing that we need to understand is that we become errant spirit. Unless we have an amazing existence in Earth, and then we can go straight to a poor place where we don't need to reincarnate. Because the errant spirits means that we are in a stage that we are waiting for a new incarnation. We are waiting for a new destiny. That's how it's described. That we are waiting for the next opportunity to continue our progression, right? So, and the errant spirits, they have different degrees. It's not every spirit that's incarnated has exactly the same level. It has many different degrees, and it's all based on our happiness, how happy we are, right? And when Spiritism called the errant spirits, that means just that that spirit still need to reincarnate, because when the spirits become a pure spirit, the spirit doesn't need to reincarnate unless the spirit want to, right? The spirit could be in a mission like Jesus incarnating in Earth, not because he needed to. He incarnated in Earth to help us. Okay. But still, what happened? I think I didn't answer yet the question about the floating around. Can we go to any country, any planet, etc.? But again, in the book Evolução em Dois Mundos, it brings us, André Luiz brings us an answer to that it says, when the spirit leaves the body, it is still not completely disconnected from matter. Hence, it still belongs to the world on which it has lived, or to the one of the same degree, unless it has progressed sufficiently during its lifetime. That's what it was saying, right? So, it's not that every spirit will be able to go anywhere. The spirit will be still in Earth. Like still being attracted to Earth. And it's attracted to Earth because of the relationships that we have here, right? The relationship of love that make us connect to other spirits and want to be together with those spirits. That's connections that we do all the time. And sometimes it's our relationship with because of haters, right? That things that happen in life, we sometimes make things not the way that Jesus would expect us to do, and then we need something to fix. And André Luiz tells us in that book, in the same chapter, that 2/3 of the spirits are still connected to Earth. And then when we disincarnated them, we could go to many different places, right? We could be connected to someone, and we saw that in some books from André Luiz, right? The spirit was there, sitting in the can you check for me? The spirit could be seated there in the room with the family that he lived in. I think I forgot to connect the power. It's here. Sorry for that. So it could be connect to the family, seated there with them in the coach, or they could be going to not that nice place that we learned from Andrea Luiz, that the umbral, there's spirits that are suffering just like the one that may have disincarnated and have that state of mind, thinking about suffering and thinking about the mistakes that we do, and be there suffering in the same kind of environment the other ones. They could go to a place, a better place like Nosso Lar, right? We have Andrea Luiz brought to us Nosso Lar. There is other communities like Nosso Lar already known, but Nosso Lar is the most famous one. So I think that as an example, there are cities just like Toronto, right? A city organized, a city. Sorry for that again. So it could be a city organized like Toronto. There is hospitals. There is places to study. There are places to people there is making things be organized, like the ministers that they have there to of communication, of the reincarnation, to govern the city, right? So all of that has in the spiritual world as well, like here. And then we have the superior communities, places that the spirits come from, the lives in even better places, let's say, that more evolved spirits that goes to that superior communities that we have, right? So that is the spiritual world. I would say that the only difference from the spiritual world to the material world is the level, the need of us to be here for our progression. Not that when we're in a spiritual world we cannot progress, right? There is a question, I don't remember each one, but there is a specific question on the Spirit's book that tell us that it's not that because we are in the spiritual world that we cannot progress. Yes, we can. The difference is the type of progress that we do. When we come to Earth, what happens? We forget everything. We have to learn from our own existence. We need to learn through the experiences and the trials that we live here. So it's just a different environment for us to continue doing our progress. Okay. So how is the life in the spiritual world? So if we have everything, it's not different. What is exactly the need for a spiritual world and a material world? So I brought some questions that it's funny because weeks before I start to prepare this lecture, I had some questions. What's gonna happen when I disincarnate? Do I need to go to a place close to Canada that is we have winter? No, maybe I want to go to a place like Nosso Lar, warm that is summer all the year, because there's no cold, and then I started thinking there is cold in the spiritual world, and I thought maybe we could ask those questions in the mediumistic meeting. And I said, no, that's too silly question to ask, No, we shouldn't, waste time of our spirits. But then I preparing this, Kardec already asked all these questions. Awesome. So I don't need to look silly in the meetings because Kardec did that for us. So here's I brought just a few questions and answers from the Spirit's book for us to understand a little bit, right? So how do spirits need light in order to see? And the answer is they see with their own light, without the need for outside light. There is no darkness for them, except there is in which they may find themselves due to expiation. So it's interesting to see, again, there is no darkness unless own light. That light is what we're talking about, happiness, right? So as happy you are, better light you have, and you can see better than if you're unhappy, you'll probably be on that darkness that he mentioned. Then, do spirits perceive sounds? And yes, and they also perceive those that your limited senses cannot. Is the hearing affected like that of sight in their whole being? All perceptions are attributes of the spirit and part of its being. When it's clothed with material body, perceptions only arrive through organic channels. In the state of freedom, however, they are no longer localized. So it's the entire spirit, right? We don't need our eyes to see, our ears to listen. It's just the entire spirit has this perception. And then just before I give an example of what we learn from André Luiz, this last question: how do spirits communicate with each other? They see and comprehend one another. So they see and comprehend. They don't need to talk, in fact, right? They just comprehend each other. Speech is material. It is a reflection of the spirit. The universal fluid establishes a constant communication among them. It is the vehicle of the transmission of thought. As the air is for you, are the vehicle for sound. It's a sort of universal telegraph line that connects all the words, enabling spirits to communicate from one word to another. So we are studying now the book Liberation during the summer, right? And recently we read about André Luiz and two other guys. They are being part. They are in the middle of obsessor group, and they are kind of undercovers. They are trying to influence those obsessors to become a better spirits, right? To get out of that obsessor environment. But the spirits, the obsessors, they do not know their intentions there. But when they go to a place and another good, there was two examples of that happening. That is exactly the book, but it's another spirit with good intention as well. He saw André Luiz and Gubbio and the other guy, and he tell them, I can see by your vibrational tone that you are friends of the good. So the spirits can, even if they are trying to be undercovers for the obsessors, the other good spirit can sense. Don't need to. It's not about the way they're dressing, the way they talk. It's really they can feel it, right? So it's spirit to spirit feeling the intention, the vibration of the other spirit. So again, we don't need eyes, ears. We just feel it, right? So that's the difference. And then there's also in the same answer here, they talk about the universal fluid, right? Doing the communications, and that is exactly the same thing that help us to get those communications with the spiritual world, right? So similar to what we have here, good mediums connecting to the spiritual world and bring us good message like what Emmanuel brought to us through Chico Xavier or Joana de Angeli through Divaldo. So all those good instructions also happen in the spiritual world, right? We have examples in André Luiz books again where a more evolved spirits go to nosso lar and give them lessons, explanations of the mission that they're gonna have to go to, or prayers and information that will be useful for them to do the work that they need to do, right? So that is also happening there, the communication between words. And then another thing that brought to us on the Spirit's book, it tell us, do spirits perceive time as we do? No, And the answer was no. And that is why it causes you to misunderstand us when it comes to setting dates or epochs. So we have in the Old Testament, right, all that information about creation of the world, of the earth, that it was in 7 days, right? What happened in each day, and then the last day God just rest. So in fact, that is what we understood when the message came to us, right? But now we know that it's way beyond that, and imagine it. Time for us is limited because we born and we die. In the spiritual world, we are eternal, right? We were created, and from there is no end for us. So if there's no end, the sense of time, it for sure is completely different, right? So that may cause a lot of misunderstanding when they talk about dates and epochs, like he said. And then the other question is, why do some spirits complain about the cold and heat? So, as I was saying, we don't feel those things because we don't have the body anymore, right? It's always spirit. There's no, the sensations there are different. And the answer that they give to us is very interesting. They talk about, it's the remembrance of what they suffered during their life, a feeling as painful as reality itself. Frequently, they use these expressions to express their situation. When they remember their body, they experience a sensation similar to when you take off a heavy coat. Immediately afterwards, you continue to feel its weight on your shoulders. So it's not that they are feeling cold or heat or pain. It's different. They're talking about the memories that the spirits have, right? So the feeling of cold or heat, it's all about the suffering that they have, and they are expressing that in a way that they understand, and we would understand them too. Because continuing the other questions, Kardec asked, do spirits feel fatigue and the need of rest? So do we get tired, right, as a spirit? So, and they say they cannot feel fatigue as you understand it, and therefore they do not need corporeal rest, because they do not possess organs in which the energy must restore. So they don't have all of this. Why did they need rest, right? But they continue saying, however, spirits do rest, meaning they do not remain in a state of constant activity. So they take pause, they take vacation. So what that vacation means, and then continue later. There are moments when their thought decreases in activity. It's no longer directed towards any object in particular. So the activities that we do as spirits in the spiritual world, it may be more connected to our thoughts, right? Not the same material thing that we do, the same need of to rest that we have here. And he continued, the kind of fatigue that spirit can experience is in proportion to how evolved they are. The more purified they are, the less rest they need. So that was interesting to understand, right? So it's different. But it's in proportion to how evolved they are, and as purified, less they need to rest. So why less? More evolved, more purified spirit would need less rest. It's because it's easier for them, right? They got the love. A lot of this thought is putting love into it, so they understand better what love means, right? So it's easier for them to give that love to others, right? So it's not that the effort that we still need to put to love someone else, right? To put others first and then do what they need to. So that's why they need less rest. And then continue what we were talking before. When a spirit says that it's suffering, what is the nature of such suffering? And then the answer from the spirit is the mental anguish, which tortures it more recurrent than physical suffering. You know, and we don't need to, I think that we don't need to be in the spiritual world to understand that, right? How many times we just feel very, very tired, not because we did a lot of exercise, we did a lot of work, work that would require effort, but just because we are sad, that we are going through some things in life that for us is a pain, right? Is emotional pain. So and that get us tired, that we just want to go home and sleep, So that happens with the spirits as well. So it's all mental thing. It's all what's in our minds, in our thoughts, right? So the suffering that they have, they may describe it as something that we would say, feeling this pain in my arm or in my leg, in my head. But in reality, it's not the physical thing. It's more it's the mental conditions that they are, right? So we talked before about they need to rest. So what happens while we are doing the spiritual work, right? What do we do there? And the Spirit's book brings the answer to that question that says spirits concur in the harmony of the universe and act as ministers of fulfilling God's will. His spirit life is a continuous occupation, but it's not all arduous like that of earth, because it's not subject to bodily fatigue or the anguish of need. So we continue working hard. The difference is the type of work, maybe, right? So here we work to pay our bills, to buy our food, right? To get food, we work to survive, to continue living life, right? But we are also work in to fulfill God's will. Each spirit has its own work, that is own objective as part of God's plan. We don't know exactly what we are doing, and maybe as spirits we know, right? But even knowing we are incarnated, that's, I think, it's an important message for us. Even incarnated, we are doing the work that God willing us to do, right? That we don't just wait to be in the spiritual world to think, okay, now that I'm disincarnated, I can do what God wants. No, because at the end, our goal is to learn how to love, right? And then once we understand that and we are closer to God, we'll be able to understand better what God's will is. But at this moment, we just need to continue doing what Jesus brought to us. All the teachings from Jesus saying to love one another, right? To love God above everything and love one another as we would love ourselves. So that is part of our occupation. That is part of what happened in the spiritual world, and there is no end for that. Time is infinite. Space, there is no limited space for us to work on. So God is always creating, so He always gonna need help to continue creating, right? We are co-creators with God to make things really happen. So there's no end for the work, and of course the activities are different depending on the how evolved the spirit is, right? We think anyone would give to someone that is not prepared that the most important role in a company, right? So as we learn, as we get prepared, we get different type of work to do. So that's what happened when we are there. And there is tons of examples in Andrea Luiz books, to help, to really help one another, to help spirits to continue growing. When I say spirits, it's incarnated, disincarnated spirits, right? So we never forget that the spiritual world is just what we just call spiritual world, that part of the world that we cannot see, because in the end we are all part of one thing, right? And finally, just to close, I want to close with this passage from the Gospel, and from the Spirit's book. There is a question about, in what sense should we understand the words of Christ, "My kingdom is not of this world," right? And the answer was, Christ was responding figuratively. He wanted to say that he only reigned over pure and unselfish hearts. He is in every place where love and goodness rule. However, humans, greedily for things of the world, are attached to the things of earth and not to him. So here, what the Spirit's bringing to us is that, let's not keep attached to this material versus spiritual world. What I'm doing here versus what I'm gonna do when I just incarnated. What I do versus what my spirit does, because my spirit and I is exactly the same thing, right? And at the end, what Jesus is telling us is that heaven, that place that we're looking for, is truly in our hearts. It's truly in what we're doing with our lives, how good we're doing to others, and that is what will take us to closer to Jesus, to his kingdom, right? So to get to Jesus' kingdom is really do the good and have that love in our hearts, And when we say their hearts and our spirits, incarnated or disincarnated, we're gonna be with Jesus here or there. We don't need to wait for this incarnation to them say, "Hey Jesus, here I am." We can say it now. Jesus can be with us right now if we have that love in our hearts. Okay. So with that, I close my lecture. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Marcio. Does anyone have any questions, comments? Anyone online?
Thiago was asking if anyone knows about Spiritist cities in Canada.
No.
The name of any Spiritist cities.
No?
No.
I think Sandra might have mentioned once.
Yeah, we had also an information, but it's not. We don't have nothing. No.
Nothing official. I think for me, what it called my attention, and I think it's really important that I got from this lecture, is the strength and the importance of our thoughts and our minds. Everything that the spirits, the questions and answers just kept coming to my mind. Like, whatever you're thinking is stronger than you can even imagine. Everything, right? Like, if you're gonna be, when you disincarnate, you're gonna be in a place based on your thoughts and also on your actions, of course, but mostly your thoughts. If you have good intentions, if you're thinking towards Jesus and good things, you're gonna be on a better spot. Or if you don't end up on a better spot, good people will be around you to help you get up and go towards the good. And I think that for me was like really, really important. Alright, so let's get ready to our passes. And thank you very much for those that joined us online. See you next Sunday or Wednesday or Thursday.